Hello and welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast. I'm your host, Savannah Madden, acting coach, award-winning theatre school owner and business coach for performing arts professionals who want more time, more income and zero burnout. My guest today is Matt Zina, who has spent over 2 decades shaping the careers of actors, beginning his own journey as a child actor, appearing in shows like Heartbeat and Emmerdale before stepping into the role of coach and mentor. Through his company, Matt Zina Acting, he has developed a unique approach to acting, guiding emerging talent from their very first steps on screen to becoming established professionals. What started as a small venture working with actors at the beginning of their careers has grown into a multi-award-winning international training company, complete with a unique acting methodology, a thriving student base, and a reputation for guiding performers from emerging to established. Matt is someone who has managed to take what many in the creative industry shy away from, the idea of a business, and turned it into a vehicle for artistic growth, opportunity, and sustainability. His story is as much about entrepreneurship as it is about acting, and today we'll be unpacking exactly how he did it, what challenges he faced, and what he learnt along the way. But Matt is not someone who simply plays it safe. He doesn't shy away from honest conversations, whether it's about the role of business in the performing arts or sharing strong opinions on industry practices. It's this mix of passion, candour, and vision that has allowed him to scale his business so successfully and build a lasting impact on the industry. Matt Zina, welcome to the Acting Coach Network podcast.
Wow, Savannah, you're good. You're very good. I almost felt very important then.
Good stuff.
Well done.
Good. Oh, thank you. Well, some of it I already knew about you. Some of it I researched and found out about you. So yeah, I like to give the listeners a little bit of insight as to who they're going to be listening to for the next 30 to 40 minutes or however long our interview lasts.
It was quite scary. I almost felt like you knew more about me than I did.
So will you go, oh yeah, I did do that. Oh yeah, I have done that.
Yeah. Oh,
nice.
yeah, I've done some half-decent things. Well done, Matt. Thanks, Savannah.
You're very welcome. So let's get into it, shall we, Matt? So I always like to start at the beginning. You started off as a child actor, appearing in shows like Heartbeat and Emmerdale, as I said. So how did those early experiences shape the way you now coach and mentor actors?
That's a really, really good question because do you know what? It genuinely does come from those early experiences, everything that I'm doing now. So I'll lay it there, this seed. I've started to use this kind of comedy term. I'm an activist, okay? And I am really. At the heart of it, I'm still some working class lad from Bradford that felt like there was a bit of a ceiling on his own career. So when I'm out there, maybe, being a bit devilish at times and putting out content and kind of being passionate, as you put it, I'm still kind of like, I'm backing my actors and backing working class actors and actors, I suppose, in any capacity. But I'm kind of, in a way, I suppose, we're all kind of like still fighting for that young kid that we kind of left behind. Does that make sense? So I suppose I should tell you. Yeah, I suppose I should tell you what that young kid actually was. Went to primary school in Bradford, and so it's a bit funny actually. So I started. I was doing this school play, and it was Oliver Twist. Any guesses which character I played?
Artful Dodger?
In what? Well done. I don't know. Is it the cheeky chappy thing? Yeah.
No.
So basically, this woman used to get on the piano, and like the whole school used to sing all the songs because they didn't want to put anyone under too much pressure. It was all very chill. It was just a bit of fun. But apparently what I did, and I must have been 8, 7, something like that, really young, is apparently I started screaming in front of the whole school. And I was like, I've seen this film, and I know for a fact the Artful Dodger sings this on his own. Right? So what are all these people doing? Like proper diva fit. So the teachers have gone, there's something wrong with this kid. Now we know, Savannah, that there's nothing wrong with these kids. We're just probably either theatre kids or, just destined to do something a bit different. So they took mum and dad aside and said, look, you're going to have to send him to stage school. Mum and dad, they weren't that well off, but they kind of like managed to kind of take me to a stage school in Bradford, quite a well-known one actually, called Stage 84. Started going when I was very young, and very quickly, I enjoyed all the musical theatre. It was very stagey, but really, very quickly, I got lots of screen opportunities. So I started off with a BBC drama called Blood and Peaches, which launched quite a few careers, actually, including Lisa Riley and a few others. It was from then I realised, it was like literally from a young age, I realised that there's this thing, and from working with the directors who were kind of saying like, look, this is what I want you to do with your performance because it's for screen. And obviously from being a young age, I was like, oh, I kind of like this screen acting. It feels a bit more real. I'm not putting on a show. This is authentic. It's real. I kind of really feel like I'm kind of in it. This was all very simplistic for a young person. And I suppose I kind of just really wanted to discover what this thing was that everybody was calling screen acting, or the directors were saying you have to act differently. And so it became like a lifelong journey of discovering what this was. My own career did really well, around Yorkshire Television and things like that. But my parents just could not afford to send me to London. Like they just, like literally just could not afford it. So there was always a ceiling on my career, but I managed to kind of do really well into my 20s and things. But then, to be fair, people think like I'm kind of wishing that I had more of a career. I did really, really well when I was young, but here's the actual truth of it. Everybody's destined for different things. And so what I found is when I was 8 or 9, when I wasn't just going along with it. I was actually going, I want to learn this. What is this screen acting? What am I doing differently? Why? And then I was actually honing it and actually developing it for castings and thinking, I've got this screen acting thing down. And this is why I kept getting TV roles rather than theatre roles all the time when I was younger. So I actually became a coach at 16. And what happened was,
Really?
yes, so this is mad. So this is why I chose to be a coach. Now I did feel like there was a ceiling on my career, but I chose to be a coach. It was my calling, and I knew that from a very young age. Now, how did I become a coach at 16? So just like most theatre schools, you do exams. I think a lot of people do Lambda now. We did Trinity and Guildhall exams. And because I started so young, I'd finished them by the time I was 16. Like they were done. So it was a bit like, well, I don't want to go anywhere. I like it here. But it was a bit like, well, what can Matt do? And they gave me a job assisting the coach and helping other kids towards their exams. And I loved it. And I was like, this is me. I really, really enjoyed it. And then I kind of carried on, like, went to Manchester School of Acting, carried on with my own career. But what I was doing, like a lot of actors, was supplementing my career with still coaching. So I was working for different organizations, started teaching adults, and that was a real calling. And it got to the point where I was teaching for these different organizations. And what happened is I think because I was so passionate about coaching, and I don't know, obviously I'd like to hear what you think about this, but I think there's two types of coach. There's coaches that are maybe actors and are doing a bit of coaching on the side. And I just don't think that unless, like me, you've decided that that is your absolute passion in life, is coaching other actors, that I think people can sense that. And I think when people come into my space, I think the first thing, I don't know if you've even noticed it, you'll hopefully notice it in this next half an hour, you'll realize that it's my absolute passion in life. I think people were coming to these different organizations and they were coming to my classes, and then they were kind of saying to like the principals or the people that ran the organization, so when are Matt's classes? And they were doing strange things like not turning up when I wasn't teaching and then coming when I was. So it was a bit like, they were a bit like, and then it was a bit like, well, I think maybe I should have my own kind of organization. It's like a natural. So I set up a long time ago now, the Yorkshire School of acting. And it just became a different animal. It was ridiculous. I set it up in Bradford. And I remember I had 4 students for a few months. Mrs. Zina never lets me forget this now. Because I was going to give it up. I was going to be like, well, 4 people have shown up for like 3 months. And she goes, look, it's however much that you didn't have before, just keep at it. And she always likes to remind me she said that. Because obviously she takes credit for any
Of
success I've ever had
course.
now.
She is now the reason for your success, of course. Yes.
Of course she is.
I
Yeah.
I totally resonate with what you're saying, though. First and foremost, I think you give off the type of energy that is very unique in comparison to lots of other coaches. You know, you have got a very, very specific type of energy which like radiates off you, that people can just either be motivated by, inspired by, or draw on for their own energy levels, or to
Or run away
recharge
from
or
as
whatever.
well.
Yeah, all that. Fair, fair. Not from my perspective, but yeah, I get what you're saying. And the other thing is that I was also doing something very similar to you, where I was working and coaching for lots and lots of other companies. Don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I was a bit like, "Oh, I could run these businesses better than you guys could." So off I went and then started my own company as well. So I really resonate with that aspect. And, you know, sometimes some people are put on this planet to do certain jobs, and you're really lucky if you find what it is that you're most passionate about. And when we spoke last week, I just remember the one thing you said was, I love talking about the thing that I am most passionate about. And it is very evident what that is, for sure.
Yeah, oh, bless you. Yeah. And I bet when you saw that, you were a bit like, "Oh, really?" You know, but hopefully I'm proving that to you. But yeah, to go back, I mean, with the timeline. So there was 4 people showing up. And then within a year, I realized that you can't actually have like 35, 40 people in a class. It doesn't work. You've actually got to open
Yeah.
more classes, you know? Don't
Mhm.
do that, Matt. Yeah. But yeah, so I was opening classes all the time. And then it led on to some amazing things that I just never knew. I mean, this is quite rare, but I became like a Yorkshire accent specialist dialect coach. So when
Mhm.
you know how much has been filmed up here in the last 10 years, it's been amazing. And obviously directors want to get it right. So it's a strange county is Yorkshire, because geographically you've got these real kind of towns, but they're actually split up by lots of countryside. So what you find is they all have their unique individual dialects. And when you've got directors that genuinely want to have that authenticity, they come into a town like Dewsbury or Bradford or Leeds, and they genuinely want to have that. So that's something that I became, is kind of a very specialist Yorkshire dialect coach, which was amazing. Got on some amazing projects. And then became performance and dialect coach, which was a kind of extension of that, which is like basically anything that a director may require of an acting coach on set. So my favourite person to work with, I think so far, has been Cleo Barnard. And Cleo Barnard is kind of one of these, what we call ultra realism directors, a bit like Ken Loach, where she wants everything to be just so engrossing for an audience because, you know, a bit like adolescence has become, you know, where it's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
like, I really feel like I'm there. Cleo Barnard's a bit like that. So, but what she does really cleverly is, yes, she has some very big name actors. I worked with Ruth Wilson, worked with Claire Rushbrook, so many, but she actually uses the people and real people from the environment. So there's a place called Homewood in Bradford, which at one time was the biggest council estate in Europe, and she was using people from Homewood. Now you can imagine how environmental, how amazing that is for a film. So but obviously they're non-actors, so I was helping. So all of that came out of it. I've wrote a book from COVID onwards. I've been writing. So as I mentioned previously, I wasn't just happy to kind of regurgitate Stanislavski, Meisner, all of that stuff. I realized that in terms of progressive acting, it's another way of saying screen acting, but we like to say progressive acting because it's not actually just primarily for screen. I developed my own techniques, developed my own ideas and concepts. And I think it's from, and this is why I've got a lot of my own ideas and concepts, Savannah, it's because I always felt that there was a class divide in this
Mm,
industry.
yeah.
And I suppose, I don't want to get too deep, but I suppose it's a bit like the old religion, and the paupers and how they used to speak in Latin, you know, the Christian texts. And then it was only finally when they said that they would actually convert it to English that, you know, people of lower classes were able to get involved in religion. Strange analogy, I know. But basically, when I started to look at the text and the way that things were taught, I would, so that I could help working class actors, and I would take a very, very complex idea and concept and really describe it in its most simplest form. And I think it's because of that, because of me being the activist that I am, trying to look, saying, you can do this. It's not beyond you. And by the way, there's lots and lots of acting coaches that try and make this sound very, very complicated. I'm not going to do that. I understand it. I'm lucky. And because I genuinely understand it, I can then bring it down to its simplest forms. And I'm not going to make you feel excluded because of the way that I present this information. And that's kind of where it comes from. And that's basically the basis of my book as well, and how I started to develop my own. So yeah, it sent me in so many different directions. And then just after COVID, I had some kind of high profile clients as well, Strictly Come Dancing winners that wanted to convert their careers. I had a kind of high profile, celebrity clients and things like that. And it was like, well, wait a minute, I've kind of outgrown the Yorkshire School of Acting. I'll kind of back myself, like I've done all right. I'll be the Matt Zina acting, and it just kind of gone from strength to strength since.
Your career so far has spanned sort of over 2 decades. You've been guiding all these amazing actors from all sorts of different backgrounds, which I would just like to say must be so rewarding. Like, what a great place to be in the industry. But from their very first steps on screen to becoming a bit more established, what are some of the success stories that make you the most proud?
Do you know what? It's kind of varied. I'll give you kind of like a kind of cross sections. There's what one kid comes to us. He's about 11, 12 years old. He was good, but he was confident. And usually when people pick up a script, they become inauthentic first, and then it's about getting them back to being authentic. But he just kind of had a swagger. This script didn't faze him. And I told his dad, I was like, he's pretty good, He'll do well. And his dad always says to me now, he's a lovely bloke. He said, I just thought you were just wanting me money, wanting me to sign him up. And, we've never charged that much. I think it were only 25 quid a month at the time, I know. And I went, no. And he knows now. I mean, there's one thing that I've really pride myself on. Never told any, I really try and be sometimes I'm too honest, if I really, really am. So I always try and be honest. And then he came back, and I think he got like a part in like this student film, like within about a month. He went off and did it, and it was brilliant, but it was showreel material. And then he just went through a period of about 3-4 years where he was in everything. Everything. He was in Grimsby with Sacha Baron Cohen. He was in Emmerdale, Hollyoaks within the same year. He was in everything. And he was just and he's from Homewood, that I mentioned
Mhm.
before, the
Yeah.
biggest council estate in Europe. And I think it's just from making it, like I said, I've never charged much and I never will. It's the activist in me as well, you
Is
know?
that the name of your book by any chance, Matt?
No, it isn't. No.
Ugh.
Maybe that's my next book, Savannah. I've said it too many times now. The name of my book's The Trinity Acting Method. I'll come on to that. I'll tell you about that later.
Ah,
It's quite
yes, your acting
Yeah, it's
method.
interesting. Yeah, it's my acting method. Well done.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, his name's Zach Sutcliffe. I've forgotten his character name now, in Waterloo Road. So he's been in it quite a few seasons now. He was in The Last Kingdom, and he is just an established actor now. Now, the problem is, so he's a huge success story because he's come from proper humble beginnings. His mum and dad are lovely, by the way, absolutely lovely. And he's kind of gone through, and we've done what we've done with him. And then this is the thing that nobody understands about me, is we then passed him on.
Yeah.
Does that sound strange? But the one
No, not
thing
not to me, but maybe to people listening it might. Yeah.
I find it frustrating when there's certain levels of it. We are a kind of what I call a second tier agency. So we're kind of, we rely on submitting, but we're not a top tier agency. You've got to know your place in this industry
For
sometimes.
sure.
And there's top tier agencies out there, the ones that if Star Wars are producing a new series, they will just ring these international top tier agencies that have all the established actors. Guess what? The majority of agencies aren't that. Now, what really frustrates me is sometimes is like I could have tried to have held on to Zach like a cash cow, and I've done this time and time again with different artists. I could have gone no, 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 we're best, and just hang on to them like some type of cash cow because they do, at the end of the day, you do, as an agency, you take a percentage, but that's not in their best interest that you just keep them around. They've turned into established actors through your tutelage, through your development, but they have to fly and they have to be in and amongst those agencies where, we had another guy called Xander Emlano, same thing, came to us. He used to travel all the way from Wolverhampton, up north before we even had like a London class or anything down south. Same thing. We got him in The Bubble. We got him in Sky One. We got him so many things. Like got these series of huge roles, and then he rang me. He'd had sleepless nights about making this phone call, and
Oh,
I know, and I was like, and I think obviously he was just a nice lad. He didn't want to feel like he was letting me down, but he didn't get the reaction that he thought he would. I was I was punching the air. Because he'd been signed up and he'd had an agreement to be signed up by one of the top 6 agencies. And I was literally punching the air. I was so happy because
yeah,
I'd
because
taken him from
it's partly your success as well as his, isn't it? It's a really
exactly,
proud achievement.
exactly. I didn't want to. I do not want to keep these artists on like a cash cow. I genuinely want them to go to one of the top tier international agencies. And I think that you've got to be responsible like that. There are certain agencies that do get those instant phone calls from big studios because they have all the best actors established as they are. And we're strange like that. But that's why we have what's called the pathway, which is something I've kind of branded this year, which is basically a very documented system of getting people from attending a class to genuinely being passed. And we have contacts, and we do literally, when people have a certain amount of credits behind them, we do then start to pass them on, and we do start to help them get onto one of the kind of established big 6 agencies. So that's how we work. It's very different.
So much more authentic, and it's just the ethical way to do things, isn't it? Well, it is in my opinion anyway. And people
Yeah.
aren't going to stay in the same places forever, especially actors. Actors are always moving from job to job and here and there. So yeah, it makes sense that they might go and train with different providers, have different agents over the course of their career. Yeah, it makes total sense to me. So I want to go on to I'm dying to ask you this, Matt. I'm absolutely dying to ask you. When we spoke before booking this recording, I asked you a question and you said business is a dirty word. Not in that voice though. You wrote it down. And I want to know what you mean by that.
Right. Oh, there you are. Look at you with your can of worms you've just opened. Right. Okay. Basically, if you're in America and you're an entrepreneur, you're hailed as an amazing person. You are lauded, and it's fantastic. I think entrepreneurs are the greatest, and I think they are the bravest, the most hardworking usually. I think that entrepreneurs should be celebrated. They should be genuinely they should walk by in society and people should just get on their knees and start bowing to them. They create jobs, they make things happen. They are just the greatest people in the world. However, for some reason in the UK, we just have this very, very strange culture of not celebrating entrepreneurs,
It's so
but
true.
actually, somehow kind of being suspicious of them or bringing them down.
Like they're a charlatan trying to get your money or something.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly. But you know, there's most entrepreneurs that I know, you know, they sacrifice so much. The fiat money system, you know, wealth is created. It's not taken away from people. This is the one thing that people don't know about the fiat money system. It's created, you know, it's created. The economy gets bigger through wealth creation, through entrepreneurs creating wealth. People seem to think that there's just kind of some like Scrooge McDuck, like taking away from somebody else to put in their golden vault. That's just not how the fiat money system worked. And this country is terrible for that. Now, there is one sector of society that's even worse, Savannah, and that is our industry. Okay? Our industry. But the problem is we seem to have this very kind of like socialist communist thing where if you get into this industry and everybody's just going to pay you to do your art, actors kind of basically come out of drama school or, you know, the kind of traditional thing. And then suddenly they realize that you're not just going to get a wage to go and play at being an actor. You know, you've got to actually become the one thing that you hate. Like literally, you've become an actor. So apparently by default in this industry, you don't like entrepreneurs. It's like a thing. You go into our industry and you just hate entrepreneurs. But the horrible thing is you come out of training or you suddenly decide that you're going to be a full-time actor and you have to become the thing that you hate. And it's such a kind of dichotomy. It's just it's so frustrating.
Oh, because so many actors don't see themselves as, I'm going to use the word business, but they're a
Oh,
brand.
oh,
Yeah, I know.
don't say it, Savannah. It's
I know.
awful.
Oh.
Oh.
But, you know, they just think, I've come out of drama school, I've learned all my craft, I know what I'm doing, and now I'm going to go to auditions and I'm going to get a job. And for some people, of course, that is exactly what happens. It's quite straightforward and linear. But for most people, there are loads more humps in the road, aren't there? I think they're really good at investing in themselves in terms of more training and going to class, but maybe not seeing themselves as a brand that is how they're going to make their living. So essentially, I reckon most actors probably do end up being entrepreneurs because they've probably got a side hustle that then turns into something bigger as well.
Yeah, it is. It's such a strange one. It does because there's so many talented actors. But the thing is, you know, it's like you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it just seems so. It's tough because it seems so obvious to me, but so many actors just cannot get their head around it. And it just sometimes it frustrates me. Sometimes, I mean, you set me up as, you know, being passionate and sometimes like being a bit antagonistic, but it sometimes reeks of entitlement a bit as well. That's the worst thing. It's like, and I say that sometimes, but it just does. And you know, I've got to be totally honest. It's like, and I always use this example. But if you're a plumber, you've learned to be a plumber, and you go out and you quote for jobs, and you hopefully get some. You've got maybe got a family to support, and you work hard to get the jobs and make yourself known. And sometimes actors just don't feel like they're above doing that. And it just sometimes just it's like, come on. And then I mean equity sometimes don't help, do they? You know, it's
There's
like
been a lot of chatter, there's been a lot of noise going on with
yeah.
them at the moment, isn't there?
I mean the problem is, you know, equity are a union. So they're always gonna be a bit anti-capitalist. You know, it's just kind of like they're always gonna be very much of the position that actors shouldn't have to be entrepreneurs. They're always gonna be like that. So in that way, sometimes they don't serve actors because, you know, the problem is actors are going for roles in movies that is just genuinely like the biggest business there is. Or they're going for roles in TV shows and things like that. Sometimes, yes, they look after you know, the rights and privileges, and that's very good, you know, but
Yeah.
really, you know, as well as that, they should come at it with, you know, maybe we will fund the training that you actually require. Let's give you a bit of money towards. Let's set up these free. You know, being an entrepreneur, being an actorpreneur, Savannah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Um.
like it.
So yeah, that's kind of that whole question, you did open the can of worms. I did warn you. I hope I've
That's what I'm
kind
here.
of given you an idea of what my views are there. And I just genuinely just hope that more actors, because I genuinely care about actors. And sometimes I might come over a bit too passionate and maybe a bit antagonistic, but it comes from a genuine place of wanting to help. And then maybe the antagonistic sometimes just comes from my frustration. Actors that I know could do incredibly well. I mean, it just takes that kind of bit of entrepreneurial spirit and effort. And
Yeah, I think you have to have a certain amount of grit, resilience, and confidence, I suppose, as well, to be an entrepreneur. And although many actors do possess those qualities as well, there are plenty of actors out there that haven't quite built up their resilience yet to enter the industry, maybe aren't actually as confident as they make out because every time they are acting and in character, they are escaping from trying to be themselves, although that's not necessarily in line with how I would approach um, performing a character. I'm also not a method actor either, but yeah, this whole kind of like, but I'm playing somebody else sort of thing is not necessarily aligned with what I think. However, what I was going to say was there is one particular topic that has been discussed quite recently with regard to equity, which is practices around being paid for auditions and self-tapes. And you kind of touched on it there. Uh, and
oh,
I know.
you aren't going to open this. Have you got any more cans of
No,
worms
but
left?
I wasn't going to ask you to comment on it. I was just going to say that you did speak quite publicly about your opinions about it, and I just want to know why you feel it is really important to share your views publicly. I feel like you kind of did a moment ago, but I just want to go a little bit deeper because you were very aware that what you were saying might have been unpopular with other people. So I just want to know why you felt so strongly
It's
about it, because I
such a
know
good
you do
question.
really care about actors.
Yeah.
I really know that. So yeah.
So I'm going to go a bit mindset on you now, Savannah.
Oh, love it. Good.
So I want to effect change. I really, really do. Like, I care so much, and there's so many actors out there that would just go with that notion of, oh yeah, that sounds good. I should probably get paid to self-tape. But obviously, what my main point was is that I was having dinner with a casting director last week, and she kind of said the same thing. It's like, look, there'd only be a certain budget for that. So all it would mean is that, like, particularly what I'm fighting for, which is to give as many emerging talent an opportunity to audition, all it would do is just cut it back down to like minimal levels of
It would
auditioning.
just narrow the net so hugely, wouldn't it?
It's a ridiculous idea, and I'm really disappointed with some of the. I mean, this we won't even go into that there, but I really want to affect change, and I really want to change people's mind. Now, what you learn in terms of mindset is, and the reason probably why I talk so passionately as well, is the only thing that drives change and action is emotion. Right? So always remember that. And do you know, anybody who's listening to this, always remember that. If you ever want change, you've got to drive emotion. You've got to basically first start with emotion. You've got to get people to feel something. Then emotions then drive actions and drives change. Now, whether people, so there's, when I go out so passionately and kind of just make that very point, but I'll say it in a very passionate way, the reason I'm saying it in a passionate way is because that passion drives emotion in whoever's viewing it and whoever's watching it. And then when you actually create emotion in somebody, basically it unlocks a certain part of your brain, basically, that then affects change. So people might absolutely hate it and look at me with, and go, and maybe start typing but what it does is it actually gets them to think about it. Probably, it might not even be then. It might be a bit down the line. But you've affected change. You've affected some kind of change. And it might be that they'll never agree with me, but it might be that actually a few days later they reflect on it because you've opened up, you've driven some action. They've gone and got passionate about it and then gone and read something, done something, thought about it later. And then you've got the people who were sat on the fence and then they've got emotional, you've heightened their emotion. And again, you've literally driven some change in them and they kind of go, yeah, wait a minute, that is, yeah, I don't want to be missing out on opportunities because of this concept or this idea that's just not good for actors. So that's why I deliver content in the way that I do. There's also another reason as well, which is this is look, this is a different angle. So this is for you entrepreneurs out there, okay? So you've got a huge opportunity now. Do you know what really as well really frustrates me, Savannah, is when you speak to an actor or a performer, they will come up with this statement. How many times have you heard this, Savannah? They will go, I'm not really bothered about being famous. I just want to perform. How many times have you heard that?
Yes, many, many times.
Millions. And do you know what? Every actor would say that, but I don't think they truly believe it because there is a system out there where you can literally perform whenever you want. You will have an audience whenever you want. You could potentially make a lot of money. You could potentially, apparently, you're trained and you're very entertaining because that's what you've done. You could potentially make a lot of money. You could potentially get your brand and your face and your personality out there to potentially millions and millions of people. So surely every actor should be doing that, right, Savannah? Because they're not bothered about being famous. They just want to perform. So yeah, how any actor is not using social media because they just want to perform, apparently. Okay. Now, what I was about to move on to is the way that social media actually works and the way that you actually build your audience, which is what you want to do, is have you ever heard of the law of thirds?
No, I'm not sure I have.
It's a fascinating, you'll love this. You'll love this. So what you've got to do is understand kind of sociology, human behavior. So when you are, say if you had 100 people, and what they've done is they've done studies on this. Me and you were totally different people. We would walk in to a room of 100 people, and what they've found, and it doesn't vary that much, is a third of people, and I don't want to upset you, but a third of people would hate us. And guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. And by the way, when people hate you, they don't actually hate you. They hate themselves. All that you provide when you walk in that room of 100 people is a mirror. And when people look in it, they see all sorts of things. And it usually has nothing to do with you. So never ever care when people hate you. There we go. The second third of people won't care either way. It's like, nah, person, whatever. Okay? And then a third of people will love you. Will love you. All right. And by the way, it doesn't matter whether you're Mother Teresa or like, I don't know, someone terrible. Okay. But anyway, a third of people love you. So what happens is when you put out content, you've got to put it out just knowing that even before you put it out, that a third of people will hate it, a third of people will love it, and a third of people won't care. And how you build your audience is that every single time you put something out, you get a new, there's like a new third of people that love it. So you build your audience like that. And to all
And
you
that's a
actor,
really great way of framing it as well. Every time you are making your new piece of content, it's a really good mindset to adopt, isn't it? To be like, well, someone's going to love it and you can't please everybody. So I think that's a really good
absolutely,
way of looking at it.
every actor should be on social media. There's just no, and they should be producing content. Apparently, you've been trained to entertain, and entertain is the most popular category on TikTok, on Reels. And apparently, if you apparently just want to perform, which is what you've told me all your lives, is you should be doing it and you should be building an audience, you should be getting known, and you should be very easy to reference for casting directors and directors to know exactly who you are and what you're about. In the future, in the next 10 years, you will be behind if you aren't producing content and you aren't doing all of this stuff. In the next 10 years, the biggest actors in the world won't be on the silver screen, won't be in the cinemas. In fact, I'd be surprised if cinemas were still here. You've heard it here first. There'll probably just be a few around that people go to kind of like a bit nostalgia. Okay? The biggest actors won't even be on Netflix, Apple TV. and all of those streaming sites. Terrestrial TV will be gone. So this is 10 years. This is my projection, and we'll come back and we'll visit this. The biggest actors that you recognize and that are recognizable in the street will be in vertical drama series. They will be on your phone in a vertical capacity. It's a £1.3 billion market in China right now. It's worth £1.3 billion. This country, I'm literally in the process of creating a vertical drama production company. It's a brilliant way. I want my actors to be ahead of the curve. In 10 years' time, it will be the most recognizable actors will be from vertical drama series that literally people watch on their phone, not Netflix. So actors, the problem is with actors, they still want the days of Hollywood. We're becoming quite conservative. We came into it, let's face it, we came into it with a dream. And that dream is that someone picks us up and makes us a star. But the problem is that's the industry's changing. And it might not be the industry that you wanted when you came into it, but the industry is changing fast. Faster than I've ever seen. You know, I used to make projections all the time. I projected when I first started, I was like, right, we will be 100% self-tapes in 10 years' time. And guess what? You know, and that was 10 years just to get 100% self-tapes. This industry now in this moment is it's changing month by month by month. More decisions are being made on people's following. Now, the one thing I get thrown at me is it's as if like I'm taking pleasure in that. Now, I will tell you this. I genuinely 100% wish it weren't like that. You know, I genuinely wish it was. Yes, people's hustle and people's training really shows a sense of trust in the room because they really have worked hard on their career. So therefore they get the big roles and everything like that. But Blockbuster Video decided that everybody would always want to go and get a big bottle of pop and some popcorn and a DVD, but you cannot control the transient nature of a certain business. And Blockbuster thought they could, and they're no longer here. Actors who are individual business within the overall market, they seem to think that they can control where it's going to go, and you just can't. And you either be transient with it, and I mean, I'm there literally from 2 decades, getting on 3 decades worth of experience. I'm there literally helping actors understand and trying to project for them, even if they don't have the experience to project where this industry. I'm literally telling people where it's going. And my big advice would be is like, look, if that's where it's going, we have to go. When you stand still, when something's moving, you actually getting behind. You always have to move with the, where the market's going. And also a caveat on that is you've got to move with it, whether you like it or not.
That's the thing, isn't
That's
it?
the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I had to retrain in social media. All these things I've said on social media. Do you think like I was 35 at the time? Do you think like a 35-year-old man that's like wanted to suddenly, decide that the only way to kind of market and be a company and a business is to produce daily content? Do you think I felt comfortable or even like that? In my head, I was like, I shouldn't have to do that, but you have to literally. Now I love it, by the way. I genuinely love it. But
At the time, it
uh,
must have felt daunting and big and, just,
yeah,
I've got to do all this extra stuff that I haven't had to do before.
and you had a bit of that entitlement that I talked about. Why should
Mhm,
I have to do this?
mhm,
It's like no. And I had a word with myself. It's like no, you do, because that's business.
mhm,
Moves on.
mhm.
You've got to go with it. And this is what I'm trying to tell actors right now. It's you might not like it. I don't like it. I prefer it. There's certain parts of it I would prefer to conserve,
Yeah,
but it is going to go that way, whether you like it or not. And at the end of the day, actually, think about it, Savannah, it's not that different from Tom Hanks. It's just that Tom Hanks had to build an audience over 30 years. So he has an audience that will follow him to any project. That's why they'll pay the big bucks to get Tom Hanks in a film. The only difference is that you can do that overnight. You can do that overnight. You can put out one piece of content and you have the same amount of eyes on you, that then a film company would come along and want to take those eyes and put it on their film, a bit like Tom Hanks, but you can just do it overnight. And that's how it works. Wow. There we are. Industry projection and all sorts of things. I don't even know where I go with this stuff. I just start getting passionate and talking. Sorry, Savannah.
No, no, it's great. I would love to talk now about how you developed your own approach. So we touched on it really, really briefly, but you have created the Trinity Acting Method. So can you talk us through what it is and why you felt the need to create something new?
Wow, right. I'll try and keep this a bit briefer than every other one. I'll try and make it quite concise and interesting and exciting. So basically, when I first got started in acting coaching, I was just reading everything, and everything that I learned, I was passing it on, from Stanislavski to Meisner to Stella Adler, and all of these concepts and ideas from all over the place. And I was chucking a few things in between of my own ideas and concepts about what the best way to act. And then I was like, look, half of these aren't relevant to the modern industry. There's so many different techniques and actors just get confused. I thought there's got to be a way of cataloging them and getting an actor to think of how can I actually put these together and create my own acting method. And so what I found is when I started cataloging all of these different concepts, ideas from different practitioners, things that I'd created, was that every single acting concept, idea, method, whatever you want to call it, fell into three camps. Preparation, like, as we all know, like literally rinsing the text for the writer's intention. Preparation. Method. People think method acting. Method acting is very simple. It's just basically being physically, psychologically ready for when you hear action. Method. And then finally, application. So it's like after you've heard action, it's like, where do you put your focus? What do you focus on? What do you do? And so it was literally from realizing that preparation, method, and application, the three parts of the Trinity, basically catalogued every single type of acting method there ever was. I was then able to kind of go, right, so what preparation methods are actually viable in 2025? What is actually relevant? And so I put them all in the book, all the preparation. And what I did as well is, because I am an activist, Savannah, I basically used my own style. And in fact, my really good friend who kind of helped me kind of edit the book into existence, she kind of laughing and kind of saying like, look, it just sounds like you on the page, you know? And it's because I do explain things in certain ways, and I do explain things in such a simplistic way. A lot of acting coaches, if I'm honest,
They
uh,
overcomplicate everything.
well, it's kind of their ego in a way. It kind of makes them feel better about themselves because I sound grand, and I think the real intelligence comes from being able to take a very complex concept or idea and simplify it. And I'm sure it was actually Einstein said that you don't really understand something unless you can teach it. And basically in a very simplistic way. And it was, yeah, it was Einstein that said that. And it's true. Unless you can actually explain things. And I think what I've done with this book, and it's going to be published on the 5th of December with Austin Macaulay. I think what I've done with this book is I've really brought that element, and I'm going to take it to the masses, really. It's kind of like, obviously, I've got people who've been taught by me, they know what I'm about, but this book's just a vehicle where I can literally do that for any actor. I can literally say, look, there's all these complex ideas and I've simplified it. I've literally simplified it. And the Trinity's amazing because I teach people how to just go, right, this is the output. It's this type of scene. Pick a preparation technique, pick a method technique, pick an application technique, and just go and absolutely smash that scene. And it's as simple as that. And I'm so proud of it. It's a COVID book, and it's been developed ever since then. And I can't wait for it to come out, because it literally does what it says on the tin. It just absolutely helps actors simplify this industry. Sorry, well, I'm gonna kind of do the book where I simplify the industry, but it simplifies the acting technique around it.
Yes. Yeah, great. I can't wait to read it. So you come across and are, I think, a really positive person. You've worked hard on your mindset. It is really on point. But what has been the biggest challenge for you personally in building and running an acting school, and how have you overcome that?
What a great question. What a great question. So I'll tell you what my problem is I had a funny conversation with one of my clients. We're on our advanced class. It's on a Saturday morning, so we've got lots of teachers work for me, but my advanced group get to work with me on a Saturday morning for 2 hours, and we do mindset and we do all this stuff. But we've got one client, and he's finally just been kind of given his ADHD diagnosis. He's really struggled over his life. He's a lovely bloke, but I asked the question. I went, is ADHD on a spectrum, or is it a bit like autism and stuff? And he went, yeah, it's on a spectrum. And by the way, Matt, you definitely have it. I'm like, oh, what? What? But if I'm honest, if I'm going to talk about a struggle that I have, is my brain just gets so excited. And it is excitement. I don't think it's probably kind of spectrum ADHD. I've never had a problem or anything like that. But I do have some of probably the traits. But I get so excited about little ideas, and they go off at a million miles an hour. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. And my thing is I need to stick to one thing and see it right through, because I just want to do everything. I have so many ideas all the time, every day, and I just want to do everything. And as well as that, I've worked with business coaches before. I think they're really important, particularly if you're serious about business. And I coach a lot of people on business side of acting, And my problem is as well is been not creating that team quick enough and big enough, and constantly allowing other people to do things. It was Gary Vaynerchuk said that done is better than perfect. And the problem people have is nobody is ever going to care about your business as much as you, but 80% is amazing. And if you can get somebody to care about your business to the 80% mark, that's brilliant. Keep them, pay them, and just do it. And because in my head's always, you can become a perfectionist when you run a business. You'll know about this, Savannah. You want 100%, and that's just never going to happen. And you have to build that team of 75, 80%ers and be really happy. And I've just not done that well enough. I really haven't. So that's been my biggest kind of business struggle. I've got an amazing team of coaches now. I mean, I've never been so happy with my team of coaches. But the backroom staff, that's something that I really, really need to work on. It's something that, but that, to be fair, that's the biggest, I think, thing in everybody's business from what I hear. When I speak to other businesses, it's hiring, and it's...
Yeah, I would say that it is one of the biggest struggles that I find with my clients. I work with a lot of, one-man bands, one-woman bands, and the transition going from being a solopreneur, as it were, to hiring a team, or even just taking on one person to lighten the load a
Yeah.
little bit, is such a huge undertaking. And when I made the decision to take the first person on in my business, I always wish that I had done it sooner.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got an amazing PA now, but when you never quite realize just how much somebody can do, and she's absolutely amazing. She just does so much. And so I'm going to kind of look to increase the team. You're absolutely right. It's like, why don't I have done this before? Just getting somebody who likes this stuff. You know, who
That's
likes...
it.
I mean, there are some weirdos out there that love it. And by the way, will probably do it better than you. But
Oh,
it's just like,
100%.
it just seems so obvious, doesn't it, now? But yeah.
Please have it, have it. So something else that I really want to ask you is, obviously we work in such a creative industry, and some people might interpret coaching as being really creative and feeling really fulfilled. But have you got anything else other than your work and scaling your business and working with actors? Have you got anything else that keeps you really creatively fulfilled?
Oh, so I am one of these. This is, you probably touched on what I mentioned before, Savannah. So I am into everything, right? Like everything. Guitar, I play guitar, I like to sing. I used to sing in a band years ago. Football, cricket, I used to play rugby union. I've coached my son's football team, under 11s. I do music producing. In a past life, I used to DJed in Ibiza, Gibraltar Music Festival, house DJ. I was a music producer. Right? It doesn't stop yet. Okay. So literally, I've played piano. I like not as well, but I like to sing songs.
Mhm.
Um,
So lots of
literally
music and
everything.
sports and yeah, nice. Things that are
Yeah.
very active by the sounds of it, because you definitely strike me as somebody that can't sit still for too long, Matt. What do you reckon?
No, I like being a family man. It's really weird. Like, and I think it sounds silly when you say about what keeps you creative and what keeps you, but in terms of me and I just love being a family man. Now that's I don't know, like you rarely hear blokes say that. I think
I love it.
it's not
I think that's
not
a great
cool,
thing to
but
say.
I like being married. Apparently, there's statistics out there that men who are married genuinely just do so much better than men that aren't.
Oh,
And I can see why statistics out there, like, you know, Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, he always puts it down to just being married and I tell you what it is, it's just having that security, just having
yeah,
somebody
and the
that
support. Hmm.
support, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, Savannah. What happens is a bit of mindset for you, but entrepreneurs usually come from bit of trauma and stuff, right? They're either trying to prove something to the world for some kind of traumatic reason. They're trying to, yeah, there's usually something there, right? And when that goes into then becoming an entrepreneur, that's a lot of instability. That's a lot of danger. That's a lot of bravery. Um, and the reason why entrepreneurs that are kind of married and have, because it's the yin to the yang, it's the stability. And my wife and family just provide that kind of like, that just absolute tranquility, stability, just knowing that someone's always there, is just, for me, just the greatest thing in the world. Um, and it's true, isn't it? You've been an entrepreneur. You just need somewhere you need that balance. So many entrepreneurs struggle, and I think sometimes maybe that's why kind of entrepreneurialism can be a bit of a dirty word because so many entrepreneurs are coming at it from. I think there's a trauma base to a lot of entrepreneurs because to take that risk and be that brave and really go after something that's really dangerous, really, isn't it? Then if they've not got that yin and that yang, the stability, they do end up doing some bad things, or being a bit scary. A bit like Elon Musk, how he comes across sometimes, you know? He kind of sometimes with some of the way that he goes on or, kind of gives entrepreneurs like a bad name when whereas there's people like Warren Buffett who are the most loveliest, amazing people you could ever meet. So yeah, that I'd probably say that as well. Having in that balance is so important to me, and
I
it takes
love that.
creativity and all of that to basically sustain a nice family life. You've got to be creative. We've got um some lovely weekends planned and things like that, and it's probably if someone said what is your biggest achievement out of anything, it'd be that. It really would.
Definitely. Brilliant. That is so great, Matt. So, you have given us so many pieces of wisdom and advice and all of that sort of thing. But I want to ask you if you could give just one. Okay, I'm gonna set you a target here. Just one piece of advice to a fellow creative business owner or just a fellow creative who's feeling just a bit stuck or unsure right now. What would that be?
This is tough. So they're feeling stuck. The struggle. So I presume they're struggling in their business.
Mm,
I would just say make content. Just do it. If you don't just make one piece. Gary V. I mean, he's mad, isn't he? He said, "Your business is struggling. Make 20 pieces of content a day. Stop being lazy and get it done and get out there." So yeah, make content from morning till night, and everything will improve. Everything will happen for you.
thank you so much. Where can people find you online? And if they'd like to connect with you, hear more about your work, where can we find you?
Tell you what, I'll make it really simple for you. I've got a link tree. So www.linktr.ee/Matt Zina. You can go to mzacting.com. And yeah, get on my radar. We're going to be doing some kind of pre-order links and things for the book. So I'm going to create a kind of group for that. So kind of get on my radar. Make sure you're on at Matt Zina Acting um, on Instagram, and I think on everything actually. It's at Matt Zina Acting, because I'm going to be going out there. I'm going to be going hard on the book and pre-orders and things like that. So I'd love to have you on my radar. I'd love you to read my book, and because I genuinely think it'll help you. And I just want to thank you, Savannah. I've never come across, I've done quite a few of these podcasts, and the way that you have conducted yourself, the kind of before, the kind of asking the questions previous to this, and putting together a little portfolio, the research that you've done in the preamble, and the way that you've conducted and kind of pointed this interview throughout has been genuinely one of the best I've seen. So well done.
Thank you very much, Matt. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean it.
We'll link all of that up in the show notes as well, so that people can just find you nice and easily. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Acting Coach Network podcast. If you love what you heard, make sure you're following. And if you've got a moment, I'd love you to leave a quick review or share this episode with someone else in the industry who might just need it. You can find me on Instagram at the Acting Coach Network. And if you're looking for support to grow your coaching business or creative career with confidence, resilience, and without burning out, then check out the latest tips, tricks, and behind the scenes over on my Instagram. And you can also find my latest free resource in the show notes. I'll be back soon with more real conversations, expert insights, and tools to help you build a business you love. Until next time, keep going, stay kind to yourself, and I'll see you soon.